Good morning, students. So today we are going to see the remaining part of the intrusion prevention and detection system. So first we see what exactly preventive measures inside the network, and then we'll see what is distributed denial of service detection method. So in this preventive measures inside the network, so here major task is to stop the distributed denial of service attack, which is mainly implemented closer to the source of the attack. So one such measure is egress filtering. So here the major attack is most distributed denial of service attack packets used spoofed source IP addresses. Address spoofing is employed to confuse cyber sleuths, making it hard to pinpoint the true source of the attack. The perpetrator hopes to continue the attack for as long as desired and perhaps even resume it at a later point without being traced. So here major part of the attack is that the source IP address is going to be spoofed, and instead of coming it from the real source IP address, it comes from the malicious source IP address. So the solution to this one is the egress router, which is the last router encountered by any packet generated inside the network before it exits that network and enters the internet. So let A be the set of all externally visible IP addresses within the network, which is behind the egress router. The egress router examines the source address of each packet leaving it. If the address does not match any address in A, then it drops the packet. So here, what exactly the egress router does is that it is going to maintain a database of all externally visible IP addresses within the network. And when the packet comes, the address field of the packet is going to match with the addresses which are available in the A. And if the matches happens, the packet will be forwarded. If the address does not match, then the packet is going to be dropped. By thus detecting and filtering spoofed packets, it helps prevent distributed denial of attacks. The idea of egress filtering has been extended to routers in the core of the internet. So a filter, on the other hand, uses the packet source address to make a decision on whether or not to discard the packet. To implement distributed route filtering, a filter maintains for each of its interfaces the set of all source addresses from which the packet arrives en route to some destination. The router uses border gateway protocol routing information to obtain the latest mapping between each of its interfaces and the subset of source addresses using that interface. The filtering decision is straightforward. If a packet with source IP address, suppose it's a say yes, arrives via an interface that packet is assumed to be spoofed and hence is discarded. So here is an example of a router implementing the distributed route filtering in the next slide through and figure. Now if you see, there is a node number 9 to which, so the numbers whatever you are seeing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12, these represents the source IP addresses, whereas the A, B, C, D, E are the network interfaces. Now if you see here, interface D sees packets from the node number 378. Interface E is the only interface that sees packets from the node 4. Apart from that, it sees the packets from source or node 2, 6, 10, 12. Now if you see, B, C and D, these are the 3 network interfaces which sees the same packets from the node number 7, that is 157.2.378.378. Interfaces C and D sees the packet from node 3. So this is how exactly the implementation takes place. Each of its interfaces is marked with the source addresses that use that interface en route to some destination. Note that the packets from the same source may enter the router through different interfaces. Now, if you see, as I have already explained through the figure, that packets from the source address 7 may arrive through the interface B, C, or a D. In the simplest implementation of the filter, the router checks whether a packet has arrived on one of its acceptable interfaces based only on the packet source IP address. For example, a packet bearing the source address 7 arriving on interface C would be forwarded. However, another packet with the same source address but arriving on interface E. Now, if you see, the interface E, which will not allow to receive the packet from the source IP address 7. Arriving on interface E would be suspected of having a spoofed source address and would be discarded. So next one is a distributed denial of service detection. So in the last 2-3 slides, we have seen the prevention measures. So now here what we do, allow the distributed denial of service attack to happen on a network or on a host system, and detect it and then take the corrective measures. So egress filtering and distributed route filtering are preventive mechanisms. Another approach is to detect the onset of denial of service and then take a remedial action. So here we have taken the example of a SYN flood attack. In a SYN flood attack, the victim sees a disproportionate number of SYN packets compared to FIN packets. By a SYN packet, we mean any incoming packet with the SYN flag set. A FIN packet is sent by the side that wishes to terminate the TCP connection. If the other party agrees to termination, it responds with its own FIN packet. Thus, SYN and FIN packets usually occur in pairs. Now, if you see here, so this figure shows the TCP connection establishment and a termination. So now A want to have a communication with a B. So it's going to send a first SYN packet along with the identity, that is X, which will be sent to B. Then B sends the acknowledgement that it has received the SYN packet, and along with that it sends its own SYN packet by SYN Y. Then once the A receives that SYN Y, it sends the acknowledgement. After that, what exactly happens? Communication takes place between these two, means they have synchronized to have a communication between them, and the TCP connection is established. So after that one, they need to send, suppose now A want to terminate the connection with a B, then it sends a FIN packet, FIN P, which will be sent to B. Then B sends the acknowledgement that, okay, I have received your FIN packet. Then suppose B wishes or agrees to terminate the connection with the A, it says it sends its own FIN packet Q to the A, and based on this one, the connection is terminated. Connection is terminated in this case. So thus, the total number of incoming SYN packets should equal the number of incoming FIN packets. In the event of a connection being aborted, the RAST packet takes the place of a FIN. In most cases, the number of RAST packets is a small fraction of the number of FIN packets, so we ignore them in this analysis. So now the second figure, that is 22.3b, shows two horizontal timelines. The top line shows the times of SYN packet arrivals. The bottom line shows the corresponding FIN arrivals. Time is slotted into fixed length observation intervals, say T1, T2 like that, during which we record the number of SYN arrivals. The corresponding observation intervals for fins, that is T1 dash, T2 dash, are shifted to the right by the average duration of a TCP connection. So this is what exactly this figure says. Now T1, T2, T3 are the SYN packet arrival time duration, whereas T1 dash, T2 dash, T3 dash are the fin packet arrivals of a TCP connection, which will be shifted towards the right direction by average duration. So to construct an anomaly detection system, we define the following variables. First one is a SI, which indicates the number of SYN packet arrivals in the ith observation interval. Fi, the number of fin packet arrivals in the ith observation interval. Di, normalized difference between the number of SYN and fin packets in the ith observation interval. So based on this, the value of a Di is going to be calculated by using a formula Si minus Fi divided by Fi, whereas T is a threshold for the detection. Then consider the time series as D1, D2, D3, etc. Now, by using these variables, we present different algorithms that attempt to detect the onset of a SYN flood attack by monitoring the above series, D1, D2, D3 values. So, totally, we are going to define 3 algorithms. Algorithm 1, algorithm 2, and algorithm 3. Okay, now suppose algorithm 1. Raise an alert if the most recently computed detection variable Di exceeds the threshold, that is Di greater than T1. So here, suppose the threshold value for the D is set to 90. Then there are some of the problems with this approach, that the IDS may raise many false alarms since it bases its decision on point values. A modest spike in D at just 1 point is very unlikely to result in memory exhaustion, but it does not cause the IDS to raise an alarm. The cumulative effect of the attack packets across the interval will cripple the system, but this algorithm will not raise an alarm. So these are some of the problems with this first algorithm, that it has to raise an alert if the most recently computed detection variable value exceeds the threshold, and suppose the threshold value we have taken as a 90, then if it exceeds the value of a 90, it should raise an alert, but these are the some problems where it does not raise an alert. So they went for the second algorithm, raise an alert if the smoothed average of the previous values of D exceeds the threshold. This approach uses the well-known technique of exponential smoothing. That is exponential smoothing. The decision variable at the end of the ith observation interval is the smoothed average, which is computed by the formula Si is equal to alpha Di, alpha into Di plus 1 minus alpha into S minus A, where the value of a alpha is ranging between 0 and 1 and the value of a S naught is equal to 0. So this above recursive expression for Si can be expressed iteratively by repeated substitution of Si minus J in terms of Si minus J minus 1. So based on that, we'll get a formula as Si is equal to alpha into Di plus alpha into 1 minus alpha into Di minus 1 plus alpha into 1 minus alpha square into Di minus 2, like that. So for example, suppose the value of a alpha, we set it as a 0.4, then we get a formula as Si equal to 0.4 into Di plus 0.24 into Di minus 1 plus 0.144 into di minus 2. The decision variable Si is thus a weighted sum of di, di minus 1, di minus 2 with decreasing weights assigned to earlier values of d. Thus, earlier values of d count less. An alarm will be raised if Si exceeds the threshold value T2. The value of a T2 is set based on empirical data. If it is set too low, it will result in many false positives. If it is set too high, it will result in false negatives. So we have to be very careful while setting the value of the alpha. Then the third algorithm, define a modified cumulative sum of previous values of d. Raise an alert if this value exceeds a threshold. So this method makes use of a technique called as sequential change point detection. Its application of a SYN flooding is found in this VANG 04. So during normal operation, the number of fins will balance out the number of SYNs and hence DI will be close to 0. Let U be an upper bound on the mean of DI during the normal operations. Let DI dash be a shifted version of a DI, that is DI dash is equal to DI minus U. The decision variable Mi used here is defined as Mi is equal to Mi minus 1 plus Di dash, where M0 is equal to 0. Here the notation x plus is defined as follows. X plus is equal to x if the value of x is greater than 0, otherwise it is 0. The IDS sounds an alarm at the end of the jth interval if Mj is greater than T3, where T3 is a threshold determined empirically. So this is what algorithm 3. So the last point of this chapter is a IP traceback. The source IP addresses in the attack packets are typically spoofed. Hence, we cannot rely on them to identify the subnet from where the attack packets emanate. Instead, we attempt to identify the paths traversed by the attack packets. So there are two principal approaches to IP traceback. One is a packet marking. The packet keep tracks of the router it has visited. Second one is a packet login. Each router keep tracks of the packets passing through it. Both these methods require the cooperation of the co-routers. In addition, hybrid approaches using a combination of a packet marking and a packet login have been proposed. So in this, we'll see packet marking and packet logging